Hello, good morning and welcome. Thank you for dialing into our third annual Gold and Precious Metals Day. This periodical event is organized by Sova Capital. My name's Yuri Vlasov. I'll be your moderator on this call. I also work by sheer coincidence as metals and mining analyst for Sova Capital. Within the next 3/4 of an hour, we'll see and hear the presentation by Global Palladium Fund, followed by a Q&A session. With us today is Alexander Stoyanov, who's a CEO of the company. Before we proceed, a necessary disclaimer, this call will be streamed, so please keep your profanities to absolute minimum. And now, without further ado, I pass the floor to Alexander. Alexander, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Yuri. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'd like to present you the products of the Global Palladium Fund and the products of our company. With that said, I'm gonna turn my video off so not to distract you from the presentation. Global Palladium Fund has been founded in 2016 by Norilsk Nickel, and Norilsk Nickel is the largest producer of palladium and refined nickel. We also produced a number of other metals such as platinum, copper, and cobalt. And it was set to achieve several goals. One of them to promote industrial investment demand for Norilsk nickel products. Not a lot of customers, at least on the investment side, know about the application of those products and where they go and what's the investment opportunities there, and to reduce the overall volatility at that time on the palladium market. With our precious metals offering, highlight on PGM, most metals used is ours. And we know that the carbon footprint of our metals, and we will be publishing this information in the near future for the world to see, we challenge our competitors to do the same. But they can't because they don't know whether their metals comes from. We also compete on price with the lowest cost gold ETC in the world of 12 basis points. We're also offering other commodities for the investors, such as physical copper and nickel, and those products are absolutely unique. If you hold other products and you think that they are physically backed, they are not. All our pricing is total expense ratio. Others offering base metals, and they all use derivatives, and they use management expense ratio to disguise the cost of their products. Just to illustrate that if you look at other management companies, they are publishing the rates of 45 basis points, for example. However, they use the management expense ratio to publish it and publicize it. But in addition, those companies, they charge a swap fee of another 45 basis points and an index fee of 5 basis points. So that brings the total expense ratio of those products to 99 basis points. And we use physical metal, and we're cheaper too. So what makes us different? Our key differences summed up on this page. Institutional quality metal, tracking global spot pricing as low as a low cost total expense ratio, enhanced security and transparency via the use of blockchain. We record all bar and bundle information into the blockchain as well as via Excel spreadsheets. We plan in the future to also record the carbon footprint of all our metals into the blockchain, so investors know exactly what they have bought. And finally, the pledge to sustainability. We are the only issuer to do so. Ask our competitors why they don't make the same pledge. We guarantee our investors we will always use a sustainability mine bar when such bar is available. Just on that note about the blockchain, the Global Palladium Fund worked with the tokenization platform, and all our ETC products are tokenized first with all the information, as I mentioned before, recorded on the blockchain for all investors to see. So we are literally very, very transparent comparing to other our competitors. Let's switch to gold now. Gold is the only extinguisher of the debt, often mentioned, but what does that mean? When you use cash to pay back your loan, you're using a debt to pay the loan, as well as all banknotes have pledges from the issuing banks to pay the holder of the banknote at a certain amount of whatever metal it is. Therefore, cash is actually a debt, a promise to pay. When debt is paid in gold, the debt ceases to exist. The reason for this story is because gold operates outside the global money markets. It is cash asset in its own right. With that said, gold retains the value. In the past 20 years, the price of the gold has risen from $500 an ounce to $2,000, and now it's back a bit to $750. And that's the only real indicator of the inflation without any government control. What is the ultimate cost of the global bailouts because of the COVID? The gold price will be the leading indicator, and it's also an uncorrelated asset for the most. Silver. Silver role in the global economy has not been published or has not been recognized the way it should be. However, silver has some very important chemical qualities too. Silver has huge antiseptic qualities. Similar to copper, silver is the key metal in recycling of water and desalination. Medical burns, bandages are embedded with silver. Silver also best conductor of electricity. Copper is the best conductor dollar for pound, but overall silver is the best, and this is shown in the increased demand for silver in 5 grams solar, and BEV have almost 100% more silver than any internal combustion engine powered vehicles. Platinum. Platinum has suffered over the past few years following the Dieselgate scandal of 2015-2016. Diesel catalytic converters use platinum, and as we have seen, the use of the diesel collapse, so has the demand for the diesel catalytic converters. However, there is a possibly good news ahead for platinum. Platinum is the key metal in the creation of hydrogen, the much discussed new future fuel. And as we come out of the COVID pandemic, platinum jewelry sales are increasing for the first time in the decade. But as all with all PGMs, it is supply which really controls the price. We don't mind that much, and the planet doesn't have that much. Palladium. We started with palladium. We're going to continue with palladium. Palladium has its own name to it and has been a wonder metal of the new millennium. Palladium is used in petrol engines and has seen its price rise as a switch. Lower powered petrol and hybrid technologies gone global. And that is the important point to remember about palladium. Even as ICE sales are banned or being banned in many countries, hybrid sales will continue for many years. And every hybrid has a petrol engine attached. Additionally, a legislation increases, so does the need for palladium, as an increased government legislation means more palladium is needed in a catalytic converters. Palladium also plays a key role in many other high-tech industries, such as flat screen TVs, smartphones technology. And as with platinum, supply is very, very tight. Copper is the new wonder. It's in the production of a clean power. Whether it's wind turbines, hydropower, or even solar, copper is the key metal. Additionally, copper is the key for global push towards the urbanization too. As we haven't even looked at the role of copper in the global adaptation of electric and hybrid vehicles. An average ICE car has about 15 to 20 kilos of copper, where electric vehicle has about 60 to 80 kilos of copper, and every hybrid has about 40 to 60 kilos. The green transport revolution is powered by copper. Offshore wind turbines, anything from 50 to 4 to 50 tons of copper in their turbines, and another 20 tons of copper in the cabling to bring the generated electricity onshore. Additionally, when we're looking at copper and looking at the global move to urbanization of copper is used for construction industry as electric power cables in houses and importantly, copper water pipes. Copper pipes have antiseptic properties and help to kill harmful bacteria. Nickel. It's another one of the products that we're offering. If copper is the magic metal powering the sustainable revolution, nickel is the magic metal to store all the generated power. We have all heard of lithium-ion batteries, but did you know the key metal is nickel? In most cases, nickel makes up to 50 to 90% of EV batteries. For example, the new Ford F-150 Lightning has SK nickel 9 battery. What does it mean? That means that the battery, this particular battery packs 90% of nickel. The Ford F-150 truck in the US, best-selling truck, and then they sell it about 800,000 vehicles annually. And Ford, by the way, intends to sell 80,000 Lightnings a year. When the truck was announced earlier this year, they sold 22,000 in 12 hours. Why is that special? The F-150 Lightning does 0 to 100 kilometers in 4.5 seconds and has a range of 460 kilometers. Recharges from 0 to 80% in less than 40 minutes and can tow 5 tons. This is the game changer for the US truck industry. The battery pack of the Ford F-150 is nearly 820 kilos. So it has about 750 kilos of nickel alone, the rest being manganese and cobalt at 5% each. Global nickel mine supply is about 2.7 million tons annually. But when you look at nickel, you need to understand not all nickel is suitable for battery production. Only about from 1 million to 1.2 million tons of nickel is grade 1, which is a refined nickel that Norilsk Nickel produce. Or majority of nickel produced by Norilsk Nickel is the grade 1. And that's the only nickel that is currently suitable to be used in batteries. The rest being produced in China, Indonesia, and other parts of the world is NPI, nickel pig iron, which is used in stainless steel, construction, and other such industries. But if the nickel is for batteries, or for all is for the aerospace, and even the space industry has to have the grade 1 nickel. So when does it leave us? If Ford sells 80,000 Lightnings a year, that's nearly 6% of global grade 1 nickel. But it's only Ford, right? Where will Mercedes, General Motors, BYD, Volkswagen, Honda, Toyota, where they go for nickel? I don't need to mention that Tesla has bought its own nickel mine in New Caledonia. They didn't buy cobalt or lithium, they bought nickel, because Tesla understands how important nickel in the storage of the green electricity. That's about it. That's all I wanted to tell you guys. Please, I'm now open for any questions.
Alexander, many thanks for a very informative and interesting presentation. Now we move into Q&A session. You can ask a question in two ways. You can either raise your hand or type your question into Q&A panel. Both are located at the bottom of your Zoom app. While we're pausing for a moment, allowing the audience to formulate their questions, I'll use the opportunity and ask the first question. Alexander, so you represent pretty much an ETF that allows investors to invest directly in metal, and I believe this is going to be an allocated account, so the account is going to be backed up by a physical metal.
You're absolutely right. All our ETCs offering are all metal backed. We store our metal in the precious metals. We store in two locations at Zurich and London, and the base metals are being stored in Rotterdam in LME approved warehouses. So, and it's independently audited. As I mentioned before, all the information recorded into blockchain. Every bar information and every serial number is recorded in a blockchain. So it is independently verified also. So any investor who would like to invest in our products, they could first of all look upon that information, look upon independent audit reports, but also they could actually, with some effort, obviously, they could go into the storage and take a look at it.
Understood. So in a way, you are offering investors an opportunity to invest in let's say Palladium, because as far as I know, there's no pure Palladium equity. As always comes as a company, if somebody's producing Palladium, they have to produce platinum or usually Palladium comes as a byproduct of either gold or Palladium mining.
That is correct. All our precious metals is kind of that's the nature of the deposits that we have actually. It is a byproduct of our nickel and copper mine operations. But then again, fortunately, the nature of our deposits is such that we are one of the biggest single palladium producer in the world.
Interesting. Dear participants, just to remind you, you have an opportunity to ask a question by either raising your hand or typing your question into Q&A panel at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We have a first question from Chris. Could you talk about supply chain issues in the world auto production? How are recent production trends and the manufacturer stockpiling? Where do you expect a normalization of trends?
That's a good question. Well, I could talk only from our industry, from the mining industry. We have seen an increased demand in certain metals like nickel, like refined nickel, like copper, like palladium. And palladium has been a deficit for many years. I don't know when the normalization is going to come. I think we have a bit of a problem there. The problem is, while auto manufacturers fighting for customers to sell more cars, trucks, they also trying to achieve a certain, to decrease prices of their cars for the consumers. And as we see the demand and the legislation for the green economy, for the ESG components, for the carbon neutrality, that comes at a price. And somebody's going to cover it, because we all companies in the world, they're not non-for-profit. We need to generate the profit because we need to pay our employees, we need to pay our taxes, we need to have to cover all our own costs. Plus, as Norilsk Nickel, we've mentioned many times and announced that we have a huge investment product to make sure that we move into the next era of the green economy. We need to invest in our infrastructure. So, and the auto manufacturers, and it's been that way for years, they demand discounts, which is absolutely fine as a commercial practice. But those discounts have to be fair to everybody on the market, right? I guess I tried to answer that.
Okay. We have another question from Ben. How do you expect new technologies that convert lower quality nickel NPIs into battery grade nickel to disrupt the supply demand characteristics for class 1 nickel? Thanks.
I don't see that way, to be honest with you, because right now the technologies are the way that obviously the whole world is moving ahead, and we will see some technologically different components going forward. But as we see now, the only nickel that could go into the EV battery production is the grade 1 nickel. So NPI would not cover it, would not be suitable for battery production. Not to mention that majority of the NPI are being produced in Indonesia and China, and the ESG components and the carbon footprint of those facilities has been questionable for years. And with the Europe and US moving to the green economy, it is unlikely that even if somebody develops a technology to produce from NPI grade 1 nickel that's suitable for batteries, I'm doubtful that they will be able to supply that material for producing batteries.
Okay, thank you. Next question should be coming from myself. How do you see, in terms of supply demand, the whole relationship between buyer and seller? Where do you see the security of supply, the continuation of supply? How important is that in the long-term supply demand relationship?
Well, that's a loaded question, Yuri, because it's always good to have a supply and demand on equal legs, so to speak. It's not necessarily the case sometimes, and we as Norilsk Nickel, as a global palladium fund, we confirm every year our next year targets for production, and we could only speak for ourselves that we've been present on the market for almost 100 years, and we've viewed as one of the most reliable and sustainable producer. All contracts, all supply contracts that we have, we always fulfill. I believe that the world needs to come to some kind of a balance to balance the supply and demand. However, with the proliferation of electric vehicles, clearly it may not be enough class 1 nickel produced. And that's the problem. It's not the problem now. It might be the problem in the next 20 to 30 years. But then again, the technology moves ahead, and we might see something, maybe the loadings of nickel or the loadings of platinum to those EV vehicles going to be lowered? I don't know. That's your guess as good as mine at that point.
Understood. Just to remind you, dear participants, you have an opportunity to ask a question by raising your hand or typing it in the Q&A panel at the bottom of your Zoom app. Well, it appears that there are no further questions. Alexander, we thank you very much for an excellent presentation, very informative. We will be concluding our Q&A session. Many thanks for participating in third annual Sova Gold and Precious Metals Day. Dear participants, if you have any questions, you can direct them to Alexander or send them to me, and we'll be very happy to host you next year.
Thank you.